So I read this article, it was like earlier this week, and I went on an emotional roller coaster with it. My goodness. So I'm going to just read. I'm going to try to go through as I did, and then I'll just let you guys have the floor on if you have any thoughts when you read it or whatever, thoughts on what I said. So the first thing I did was I read the title, obviously, as you do with any link. And the title is Court Rules Government Can Keep Money Seized in Drug Bust Even After Suspect Acquitted. So that immediately makes me go like, that no sound no good. That sound very stupid, right? So don't like that. So my first thought as I start reading it is, so he did nothing wrong and he can't get his money back, right? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm like, So I read in the article, Jeffrey Crippen was not entitled to 3 bundles of cash seized by Dover police due to lack of documentation and proof that the money was legitimately earned. President Judge William L. Witham Jr. asserted in a 16-page order. So I'm like, proof the money was legitimately earned? Like, how do you do that with cash? I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Right, that's what I'm thinking. But then I go on to read. In the article, it says, the court finds it incredible that the money was allegedly loaned in 2013, but then 2 years later, the money would be part of a collection of funds stored in a home that had been broken into multiple times instead of a secure location like a bank. So I'm like, all right, that's a good point. That context matters. He got a loan and somehow he still had the money 2 years later. Like,
but how exactly, if I may interject, does the judge say to somebody, I don't think this is legit. Right. I don't like. I feel like, to me personally, that is, regardless of the context, still overstepping a bound.
Yeah,
there's some sort of a boundary we're overstepping. What do you think?
I'm still with you there. This long through the article, I was still with you there, and I pretty much still land in the same spot. But I did read, the guy had like 13,000 something amount seized, and he didn't even try to claim any more than 10. So he didn't even want to claim all of it in the first place. So I'm just like, what was wrong with the rest of it that you didn't claim it? I don't want to be article. And my one of my conclusions was the dude is a criminal for sure, but should the money still be kept away from him?
It is entirely.
And hang on, really quick, Chad. Once again, I went on a roller coaster of how do I feel about this from title to full read. And it wasn't even a long article, by the way. But one of the last things that I thought of was, did the original warrant actually turn anything up that day, right? In that specific moment, in that specific time, that day, did the warrant turn anything up? If it didn't, then you should probably still give him his money back, even if he's sitting in jail. Like you can't just you can't just say on every other day this guy was doing bad things, but on this day when we had a warrant for this and it wasn't there, we can just do whatever we want. Like you can't do that, right? So
it's entirely suspicious that he's not able to produce any sort of like trail for this money. But at the same time, like, you kicked this dude's door in and you grabbed his cash, and now you're telling him he has to prove it's his. I kind of grind with that a little bit.
And if that warrant didn't turn anything up, when I was reading the article, it didn't seem like the warrant turned anything up that day. So
it didn't. Just these bundles of cash.
It definitely talked about how he was in jail for legitimate like crimes he's committed.
But yeah, right. This isn't the most upstanding guy, but still.
But that doesn't matter, right? How are we judged in society? How do we treat even our work?
Here's my issue with it. Is that if the court system itself has the ability to take and not have to prove one way or the other anything. Number one, the ability for abuse is easily, I could see how easily that could be rampant, right? Number two is the point of the court system, and the reason why the court, in my opinion, and police officers have to prove everything to a T, and a citizen does not have to do that, is because as a court system, as a police officer, you are supposed to be completely in the right and completely honorable. Right? I'm not requiring my citizen to prove one way or another whether or not he got funds legitimately or illegitimately, right? What I am saying is that you as a police officer, for you to take that money, you have to prove that it was taken or earned illegally. That's, to me, that proof of burden is on the court and the police officer,
the government.
But then and they say this in the article, the initial confiscation was allowed based on legitimate probable cause, according to the court, obviously.
Right, but
So you go into a place, you're suspicious of somebody moving drugs, selling drugs. You see these. You're talking about $13,000 in cash. Caleb, do you have 13? I don't care how much money do you have. I don't care how much money you have. Why do you have $13,000 in cash just laying around your house?
Yeah,
it's gonna look suspicious if you have probable cause. So I get why it was like in the context of, okay, well, we're suspicious that you're moving drugs. Prove where you got this money from. Oh, I don't have anything. I just have $13,000 in cash laying around. It's a little suspicious, but I get what you're saying. It's like, well, why, if he was completely exonerated from these drug charges, why does he still have to prove that this money is his, even if he has a prior history? It's just like it's like one of those weird middle grounds where you're like,
It is. So and that's a great point. But to me, that middle ground then, in my opinion, should be is that after the fact, like, who keeps that money? It's the police departments that keep that money.
Right.
And after so much time, they're allowed to use it as they well want.
Right.
Where I take offense to that, again, is the fact that can be abused to the tens. And in fact, I'm going to send you guys a couple of videos I want you to watch about debtors' prisons that Vice did, which is really interesting because it's exactly what we're talking about right here.
Oh, definitely.
To a large degree. So this is where specifically, when you take the time later this week to watch these videos, where the abuse could easily become rampant. So only middle ground, in my opinion, for something specific like this is that this money goes into a fund in which it goes to the community in some way, shape, or form, and not through the police department.
Right, because then there's motive.
Exactly. Motive. It's got to be done in a manner that whether it's donated to charity or whether it gets put into a pool in which the community fund a library or some bullshit like that. I don't care what it is.
That's nice, though.
I do care, but that's how it should be dealt with.
Nice.
If in fact, if the police cannot prove that it was earned illegitimately, and if the person cannot prove that it was earned legitimately, that's where it goes.
Right. And we are also predicated, like, our country is based on this principle of innocent until proven guilty. So that's definitely, that gives you cause to lean the way of the individual than the accusing institution, for sure.
Well, as the accuser, right, like I said before, the burden of proof is on you, not on the citizen.
Right. The court keeps things in context. So it's like, but again, there's like potential for abuse there if you set certain precedents. So I don't know if I want to lean more in favor of the individual than I do the state. You know what I mean? And I'm more inclined to lean in favor of the individual usually. So
as am I. I would agree with you there.
At least in this context.
Mm-hmm.
Cyril, any additional thoughts on that one?
I do have one more. So I was super interested in the article because of the changing way I felt about it as I was reading it.
Right.
And then because of that, I found it on Reddit, obviously. I think it was in my favorite subreddits are news because it's literally like no opinion. It's just like, look at this happen. And I'm like, okay. So this was one of them. And I guess it's a little bit of an opinion, but it's a random Delaware article I wouldn't have found otherwise. That's why I like it. So I'm like, okay. So I read the title, felt it's a type of way. Got to the end of the article, felt a type of way. Let's see what's in the comments on Reddit. And it was just a whole bunch of people like just definitely only reacting to the title, which I'll do as I'm reading titles. You always think a certain type of way. That's clickbait, right? They're trying to get you to click depending on what the title is. But like, man, the amount of people that it felt like are willing to not read the article, just read the title and just then write a comment. I never write a comment. I could care less. I have my own thoughts and I enjoy my thoughts and nobody else gets to. So it's the act of not reading the article, just reading the title and just like espousing opinion. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is not good. Not good. So
fair enough.
Because like it was a lot of like, this should never happen to anybody and like outrageous and
it's easy to carte blanche take fully one side than it is to take like a nuanced. Oh, okay, there's a little bit on both sides here. That's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe
if you dug deep enough in the comments, you could find it. If you dug deep enough in the comments, you could find stuff, but
it's just easier to react 100% on one side or the other than it is to like, oh, okay, all right. You know what I mean? But
that's pretty interesting.
There you go.
Do better, people.
Do better. Be better. Fucking be better. Caleb, last one.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.